because it's something you should understand. Because I don't like to get into religion as far as arguing about what gods are better. But if we're going to talk about the role in society, you're not the people that should be talking. And I'm specifically talking about the Israelites and the Christians that use the word pagan and then turn around and got something to say about the Illuminati. You can't go both ways, because the New World Order is a movement away from what you are calling a pagan religion. The New World Order is Jesus. Because before that, you had animist nations that were powerful. And what happened to them? Rome destroyed Egypt. Greece was still holding their values. They did the rituals and became pharaohs. Rome was like, no, New World Order. What else happened? Axum destroyed Kush. The two superpower and animist nations are destroyed by a New World Order. And what is the New World Order? You take the knowledge out of the temples and then you put them in the universities. If that isn't spooky enough for you, that destroyed the competence of the animist nations. And this went all over Africa, because the knowledge now costs money. Around the same time, coin is invented. Nations existed forever with resource economies. And there were valuables, there were gems, there were rubies. There may have been ingots and seashells. But now there's coin. You go back from the period where they were first creating coins. Different nations were creating coins. Before that, you had resource economies. These resource economies were tied to the institutions that were created by pagan nations. And the way they did it was they did it by, I guess the best way you could put it is worship of nature as a whole. And then that allowed you to deify different aspects, even aspects of nature that they may have vilified, because they had villainous deities. And of course that was the rest of the world. It's the same thing as the Norse with Loki. That's how the world operated. And just like the Norsemen, they were pagan. They were called pagan by Christians because they did the same thing. They had the same type of culture. Of course, like the Vikings were more nomadic. They didn't set up as much. So if they didn't set up, they didn't have the monuments of the ancient Egyptians or anything like that. They had some interesting boats, weapons, and that sort of thing. But we're talking about a small group of people in comparison too. So, but it's the same thing in the sense that it's the same religion. And be it that it's the same religion, they're going to be called pagans. And that's how it applies today. But to get out of history, it applies today because that's how you fix your neighborhoods, is you do it through the institutions that you already have. And when you're sounding like crazy Christian, this is more the Hebrew Israelites, because Christians don't really sound like that anymore, but it shows that you're untrustworthy. And you have your RBG Hebrews, you don't really hear them even use that word. You know, like Michael Edwards, I never heard him say, maybe in the past, but I mean, I think he gets it in the sense that, A, we're talking about prophecies. Like if you just look at Egypt, you have prophecies, you have circumcision, you have proverbs, you have priests, you have temples. This is a very religious culture. And I'm always trying to tell these new woke Kemetic people that you're dealing with a functional working religion. Don't mess that up by even if you know the language well and you pick out some things in their scriptures. That's another thing, they have scriptures. And you say, okay, we're going to focus on just the core spiritual aspects. It's always something that you can't measure. And I'll ask them the same thing I'll ask the Hebrew Israelites. And a lot of times the RBG Hebrews, that handful of that sect, they have more to show for when it comes to building out of the temples. They can say they've done certain things. They can show that they're training the next generation in something functional for society. The rest of the Hebrews, a lot of the New Woke Comedics, that's not even on their mind. They're arguing about, like Jesus. And I mean, it's arguments about different gods. And I'm like, don't insult Kemet, the nation, by arguing about gods, right? Like, come on, they had, as of now, there's like 1,500 known deities in ancient Kemet. So what kind of arguments did they really have? I mean, that would just ruin everything. They had roles because they represented principles in nature that had roles, including, you know, like they got a god for beer. Okay. And we don't understand that until you look at it and it's like, well, how many beer companies do we own? You know what I'm saying? If we had a temple that focused heavily on the wine or whatever, they're going to produce some good wine, put it to market, and that's churn, that's business. That's how civilization works. And I'm trying to reach out to people, and you're showing me that you're off the radar, that you're just an idiot on the world stage, calling somebody a damn pagan, and then turning around and talking shit about the Illuminati. Because, like I said, the Illuminati, the New World Order, all that Roman stuff, it is based on Christianity. And what word did they use? A pagan. It's the same thing. I mean, that's how I know they're in fantasy land, a lot of Hebrew Israelites. They're just, I know it's escapism for a lot of them, but damn, it's not even consistent escapism. Your life is too short for that bullshit. Sleep well. I had to add one more thing, and this is more to like New Woke people, the spiritual people. So I heard Dr. York Jr., and I can't really listen to Dr. York Jr. It just becomes too predictable. Like, you know, they gonna say it. They start talking negatively about religion and then talking positively about spiritual. And then you ask them, well, what have you done with the spiritual? And it always goes back to some esoteric stuff. It goes back to, like, this one brother recently, one of my friends on Facebook, he said, I asked him, like, what has the Kemetic churches done? What have they built? What are their actions? And it goes to, do you know about the Ak, the Ba, like that, the aspects of the spirit? That's psychology. That's one science. The science of the conscious in the afterlife. Out of all the religions of the world, me personally, I'm an animist because I see that those sort of concepts are closer to reality as I know it. But unless I know the language better, I can't really get into that. And I'm studying the language now. So I'm in the process to get to the point where I can get into that. But what do you do in the meantime? It gets tired when it always is something that isn't tangible. I ask, what actions have the Kemetic Church accomplished? What are they doing? It should be easy. All they're supposed to do to answer that question, and I'd sing their praises if they did it. All they have to do is say, we built a temple for whatever science. We need them all. And we taught people the science, and they went on to form businesses. They went on to get scholarships. They whatever. You mastered the science, slap a deity in there, and then you're operating. Now you're still insufficient, but you're beginning to turn the engine on. It won't really work until you have a good amount of the sciences covered and everybody's saying, oh, this is a movement. Well, my church, we don't do shit. We smoke weed and cut hair. Well, we're doing other stuff, but we need a haircut. And then once that starts to churn, you got the churches growing the weed. You got churches making stickers and selling them for dirt cheap in the vending machines. You got churches making batteries, trying to figure out a way to make batteries without without lithium or something like that. Once you get to that point, I just sit back and laugh. But that's what we're trying to get to. And you sound like a barbarian, like you came out of the cave, like you're the Neanderthal. When you talk about calling somebody a pagan, and then in the next breath, you talking shit about the Illuminati and the people who practice Judaism. Come on. Using Catholic jargon and then you talking shit about the Catholics. Come on.